Hello, guys, and welcome to Let's Talk. Today, I have some special guests with me. I have Jabulani, Mana, and Vanya. So, could you guys, just introduce yourselves and say a few words?
Hi, my name is Jabulani. Um, yeah, I'm 21 years old. I'm a photographer, and yeah.
Hi, my name is Vanna. I am also 21 years old. I am a university student going into my third/fourth year, and yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Vanya. I'm also 21. I am also in university, and this is my third time on the channel, so I'm happy to be back.
Yes, so thank you guys so much for joining me today. Today, we're just going to talk about relationships and like toxic relationships and love as well. So, have you guys ever seen someone in a relationship and you guys are like, huh? And then you guys are like, how are they dating? So, like, what are some couple of characteristics that made you guys think that, this couple is not going to last very long?
I guess I would say that maybe if they get together really quickly, they go from not knowing each other to being together fast, then I'd kind of be I'd be side-eyeing it that's not gonna last.
Daniel, what if they knew each other, but they didn't make their friendship known? Like, what if people really know that they knew each other from before?
So it was a secret thing?
Yeah, not like a secret thing, but not openly we're friends, but they know each other. Is that the same thing, or people?
No, it's not the same thing. No. It's for people who literally just meet in passing or something, and maybe 2 weeks later you find out that they're in a relationship. That I'd be side-eyeing. But if they have history and maybe their families know each other, they're from the same area, then I don't think I would side-eye that as much.
So would you say that those people went into the relationship blindly, or what do you think about blindness in terms of that relationship?
I definitely would say that they went into it blindly because 2 weeks, it's not a long time to really know someone if you're using Vanya's example. So I don't really wouldn't put a measure into how long you should know a person, because if you feel right, then you should definitely try it out. But there are times where there are red flags that are presented immediately and you just ignore it because it's like, oh, a new person, they're interested in me the same way I'm interested. Let's do this. Why am I waiting? And usually you just have that kind of honeymoon phase for a bit, and then everything starts settling in about maybe a month or so, and then you're just like, oh, me and this person are totally opposites, and we do not vibe the way we did when we first met each other. So love can definitely make you oblivious to obvious things, and sometimes you need people from outside to kind of tell you, or you have one of those realization moments and they may do something or whatever. So
saying, just to add to what Marina said, that stuff happens a lot. You get I say the new car smell. When you get a new car, it smells so good. You're like, oh my gosh, every time you get into it, you're like, oh my gosh, I love that new car smell. I love having my new car. But then after a while, it doesn't, you don't smell it anymore. You get used to it. It's when you settle in, you're finally oh, I have a car. It's there's certain things about the car that you notice you don't like because you weren't paying attention. It was you were focusing on the smell of the car when you got into it. So a lot of the times what happens is people get into a relationship and then they think they know the person, or the person is showing one side of themselves, and then it's only later they realize that they missed a few things because they weren't paying attention, and red flags, like you said. So it's always good to know somebody thoroughly first before you start to get into a relationship with them.
So you mentioned something important about red flags. So let's just think beyond intimate relationships. Do you think red flags can show up in friendships as well? And what might some of those red flags be?
I was gonna say, yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was gonna say, yeah, totally. You can see red flags in friendship because I think that negative quality traits is just like a human thing. So in any human relationship, like there's going to be red flags, toxic traits, things that like we all have to work on. But I would say specifically that maybe like a red flag could be like maybe possessiveness, feeling like you, not necessarily like you own the person, but like they owe you something and they're responsible to you in that relationship, whether it be a friendship or like a boyfriend girlfriend situation or a sibling. It could be any relationship, honestly. But yeah, I would say that could be a red flag.
I would say another sign of a red flag would be like repeated behavior. So let's say this person, they're easily mad or whatever, and you see they do certain things leading up to that point. So those could be red flags. Like let's say if they were mad at you, they do the same like things that they were displaying before. Usually people could excuse the saying, oh, I was just not in the moment, I wasn't okay, but they keep doing it to the point that it's affecting you in that relationship. That's like, that this is definitely a red flag that I need to leave before they continue to manipulate more or continue this behavior that isn't ideal.
Yes, your way.
I was just saying, like, a bunch of red flags in like a friendship or like unsupportive, like holding me back kind of in a way. Because a lot of times, like in friendships, I find is that like people try to like outshine you, but it's like that shouldn't be the case if you're genuinely somebody's friend. You know what I mean? Because it's like we should be like motivating each other to do better and like to be better people. And a lot of times, I feel like friends try to like bring you down because if they see you doing something that they themselves can't do or they're not ready to do in their life, that they kind of like make you feel like you shouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, like negative traits that they like put onto you.
Yeah, definitely. There's like sorry to cut you off there, but like, yeah, I'm saying like they project for sure. Like, insecurities, like you said, negative traits, like all that different type of stuff, they project it onto you, and then like, you start to carry their burdens as your own. Like that is absolutely toxic. So yeah. And then again, like, love can definitely blind you to those things.
I would say
sorry, I would say love, and I in a way I feel like the friendship almost can blind you in those things as well, because if you're in, like, say if I've known somebody for 10 years and I think we have a good friendship, but like they've been showing me those behaviors, sometimes like your love to that person kind of makes you overlook it in a way, because you're like, oh, I like that's something they do that I don't like, but I love them anyways, and it's like, oh, I just overlook it because I love them, but sometimes it's like that's not the good kind of love you should be giving to that person, you know what I mean? And it hinders you in a way as well.
Yeah, another red flag I would say would be like jealousy. As like I think Joe Boy like touched on it a little bit, and that can be like very toxic as well, because the person's jealous of you, they don't appreciate you if you're excelling in life, and they might make you feel bad about like your different accomplishments, and like as a friend and your love for them, you might not notice those characteristics right away. But I think like that's like one aspect where like in friendship, your love that you have for that person could be blinding to like their negative characteristics as well.
I have a question, I guess I would say. It's kind of the same thing, but like I guess like when if you find yourself in a situation where you are in where you feel like you're being blinded by love or lust or affection or whatever it may be, like how would you suggest that like you get out of that situation? Like how would you handle it?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a very good question, especially like if you're really good friends with the person for like such a long time and like you really enjoy their company and everything. Like, does that mean you have to cut ties with them, or do you talk to them about it? Like, do you set boundaries? Those are very hard things.
Honestly, like I feel like if anything that personally I've like learned through relationships this year, just like through friendships and like all the other relationships that I have, and even looking at the people that like my relationships affect as well, like from people like through my immediate family and through their relationship as well. It's very important early on in any sort of relationship to set boundaries. You know what I mean? So if you are the type of person that knows that this type of action will affect you negatively or positively, it's important to let that person you're going in a new relationship with, whether it be a friendship or whatever the nature of your relationship is it's important to set boundaries so that they know going on, like going forward, that that is something that you do that I don't like. So that if they continue to do those things, then you know they're doing it because they either don't love you or they don't care.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's a very good thing.
Yeah. In regards to the part of like if you were friends with this person for a very long time, there comes a point in the relationship where like nothing is really progressing. Like, you and that person haven't really had a proper conversation in how long, and you can sense that there's something wrong. So, I feel like at that point, it's where you kind of reevaluate what could have possibly went wrong in the relationship, and then you can find that kind of pattern of like, oh, it's not me actually, it's this person because they're continuously doing this one action. They're continuously projecting on me, and I haven't really been true to my feelings on how I truly felt about it, and it's, upsetting. So what I personally would have done would have went and talked to this person and like kind of try to bring it up and say, certain things I should do. I've noticed it for a while and it's like just really affecting me now and I'm really aware of what it is. A lot of times they're gonna project and say, no, I don't do this, I don't do that. But at that point you have to establish like, I know you're not gonna see it right away, but I'm gonna need to distance myself because if you continuously be around them when they're having those conflicting thoughts of, oh, she just gave me this huge revelation, like, do I really do this? It's gonna affect you because they're gonna say, oh, when did I do this? Can you give me an example? And like try to rack your brains on the times that they may have done something. It's too much to do. And it's a lot to just put yourself on stress because you're just hoping that they figure it out so you continue as being friends. And sometimes they don't. So you have to make the hard decision to leave that person. And it will sting, it will hurt for a bit, but knowing you have at least a bit of peace of mind and you don't have that constant dread that you get by thinking, oh, I have to hang out with this person. I'm not looking forward to it. Like, what is it going to be? Who am I dealing with today? So, to avoid all of that, sometimes you do have to remove that person from your space. And if they truly are the friend and they value the years you've had together, they'll be able to turn themselves around and, you can start off fresh. It won't probably won't be right away, but if they do value it, they can come back. But you just have to make sure that you set those boundaries, like Javelin said, when you do return to that friendship, so no one knows that they're overstepping, and you can continue on and hopefully mend it back to where it could have been at one point.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
So,
Mhm.
So, talking about love and how it could be blind, if we do look at the story in the Bible in Judges 16, talking about like Samson and Delilah, right? And from the story, like Delilah did kind of, had an inclination that Samson might be lying to her. So, looking at Delilah and how she acted in this story, how should we approach our significant other when we think they're lying to us?
When you, I feel like when it's your significant other, you kind of may over exaggerate some of the feelings because it's like, because you're really possessive of that person because that's your partner, and that's everything you do with him. So when you see something that just doesn't rub you the right way, it's like, oh, oh. So if I'm like in a jealous rage, one thing about me, I go super quiet, I just won't say anything. And then I'll just blow up later on and just, drag it on. It's definitely not a way you need to approach it because when you just explode, you just bring more into the jealousy and you just say a lot more things you shouldn't. And honestly, it's a natural emotion to feel jealousy, and it just depends on the situation. So if it's something that's like, they really did something that you're like you weren't comfortable with, just addressing it right away. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't like that you did this thing. I was jealous by that, or when you do X, Y, and Z, it doesn't make me feel like you are thinking of me in that moment, you know? So am I a second thought to you? Like, am I your partner? Yeah, you know, don't do all those kind of things, because those will just throw out to just more confusion later on. But yeah, squashing it immediately and not like sneaking behind thinking about it. So just being upfront with it, I'd say best way to handle it.
With lying and relationships, I feel like you should give your significant other like the benefit of the doubt. Let them explain like what happened, and then like go from there. And then if you know the truth, and then they're lying to you, then that's definitely something you should address, and then figure out why is it they're lying to you. Because usually like there's always a reason behind the lie. You know, I mean, you feel scared, you feel like you're gonna get in trouble, or you feel like you did something wrong. You know what I mean? So try to find like the root of the lie, and then try to figure out like ways that you can go about like avoiding that in the future, for sure. Because there's no reason to lie. Like if you're with that person, and then you should have that trust with them, where that they can they can tell you anything, and you can tell them anything, and then it'll be okay. You know. So yeah.
I think I would say that when it comes to lying, yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like I'm the type of person that definitely gets very triggered by lies. I don't know, I just hate when people lie to me. It gets under my skin so much. And so I feel like the best way to approach it would be, yeah, to just confront it head on, because like I know like sometimes like we might feel like, you know, we want to like play games or be petty or like, you know, feed into the energy that they're giving us, you know, out of anger, for the situation. But I think that just the most productive way would just be to just confront them and just like tell them straight up like I know Joe Boy said give the benefit of the doubt. I personally wouldn't do that. But I would just be like, yo, you're lying to me. Like, especially if you catch them in the lie straight up, like I'd be like, why are you lying to me? Like, explain yourself. And if they continue to lie, then that's a different discussion. That's a different discussion. But for sure, just confront them straight out. Yeah.
Honestly, I should have made it like my answer a little more personal, because if I'm being honest, like if I catch you lying to me, it's gonna be an issue. Only because like I'm not the type of person, I won't lie to you for any reason. Like I don't like need I don't have to tell you a lie. You know, if you ask me a direct question, I'm gonna give you a direct answer, because I don't feel like I need to lie to you, because I trust you. You know, and especially if I catch you in the lie, it's gonna be a bigger issue, because it's like not only are you lying to me, you're trying to hide it too. So that's a problem. You know, so I feel like getting to the root of why like that person feels like need to lie to me and then hide it. You know, so that's a big no.
Right.
Okay, so what does this story tell us about Samson's spiritual life in the terms of like, I feel like Samson had like such this more, I won't say he did love Delilah, but I feel it was more like more lust, and his lust kind of like override his best judgment. So like, what are maybe like some, I guess like pointers, or like, I guess maybe clues to in your relationship when you think like lust is overriding than over love?
I think I would say one like pointer that like it's lust and not love is like if you start like changing who you are as a result of that person, doing things that are out of character for that person, like just being brand new essentially for that person, I feel like that can like show that it's lust instead of love. Because like I feel like again, lust can maybe comes on fast because it is something that is physical, and like you see people physically, you don't know who they are until you get to know them, and that takes time, right? And it's the same process with falling in love. So like if you start immediately changing yourself or acting brand new, switching up, your family and your friends don't recognize you, and you've recently met somebody new, I feel like that could be a sign that like it's not love, it's lust or infatuation.
Yeah.
Like, oh, sorry, man.
No, I was just agreeing to Vanya.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I was saying like to add to Vanya's point, like I feel like a lot of the times you can tell like if like when you get that clear head that it's lust and not love is when you're with that person and you don't feel like you're doing anything to kind of like further your relationship. You know what I mean? Like if everything you're doing is more like a physical side and like again like what Varian said, like you're changing for that person, you're doing things you wouldn't normally do. Like that's not really love. That's lust. You know, because it's like you're giving that person all of yourself and they're not really giving you anything, you know? Because love would be like, oh, you guys are both changing for the better or like in a direct like a certain direction, you know what I mean? And you're supporting each other. But like lust is where it's just like you do like everything like things can be a lot more physical and like all those things as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you think there's a time where you can be showing love to the person, but the other person only is like lusting you? And like, what do you do in that situation?
Yeah. Honestly, I'll just give like examples. So like before, and I was starting to get into the dating world. I was trying with the online apps. So Tinder and Bumble and all of those awful things. So like it's kind of hard in that sense because everything is like all online, so you can perceive things a different way. So like in some cases I'd be like, oh, this person I totally feeling each other, like this is a vibe, like I want to like take the next step and meet them in person. So usually at that point, let's say roughly 25% of them don't even want to meet up in person. They just wanted that kind of physical talking and just you know, things that you can do and stuff over on Snapchat and all that kind of stuff. So then that kind of made me realize, okay, I need to like kind of see the kind of people who are really just lusting after me or who are like trying to get to know me to build a bond, which eventually could lead to love if it was the right person. So um it's just a lot of trial and error. Some people are very upfront with it, saying, oh, I'm looking for this, and that, or they will say I'm looking for relationships. So just finding your balance in between and just knowing what you want to, because what you project is what you attract. So like if you're not even clear yourself and you're just diving into it, it's gonna be overwhelming and you're gonna end up with a lot of wrong people. So by being clear about your intentions and just looking for those qualities in the person that can probably get after a couple conversations, then you can see that okay, this person is in it for the love portion versus the lust. So yeah.
See like some clear ways to figure out if someone's lusting after you versus like love is like one of the points that Matt touched on is like you can with like today's society and stuff like that, I feel like it's almost normalized for someone to lust after you, especially with like the dating apps out there like Tinder, Bumble, or whichever ones are out there. I'm not too familiar with them, and I feel like it's almost norm. It's normal, like normalized, like I said, right? For somebody to be like, oh, like if you're looking for this and I'm not looking for that, like we're just not gonna like further the conversation. You know what I mean? And I feel like with like especially in today's society, I feel like we should be more digging like past the surface and like actually get to know the person like we're interacting with and like try to get to know them more and like see like what are your interests, like what do you get to do, like hobbies, stuff like that, and then actually try to grow like a bond and then try to pursue it from there. Because a lot of times I feel like people like get into relationships because they lust after the person. They're like, oh, this person's attractive. This person's this. I like this about them. And then like once they actually get to know the person, they're like, oh my gosh, like what have I done? Like I don't even like this. Like I don't love this person. Like I don't even like this person. You know what I mean? And that's when like the relationship usually falls apart because one person is like, oh, I'm not even like in it. You know, I'm just here because like this person's cute or like whenever I call them, they come over, like that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I feel like more so, especially in today's society, we gotta learn more to like love than to lust.
Yeah, lusting is like dangerous. If you look at like the Samson, like Delilah example, like Samson lusted after Delilah. Look what happened. He was, dancing around enemies' territories, and he ended up, getting his eyes plucked out, and they ridiculed him at the end of the day, and he had to end up dying along with them. So I guess the lust is very, very dangerous. And I guess you just have to like recognize the different signs, like is this person trying to like build something with me, like are they just using me for like physical things or like whatever. So yeah, it's like Jaboni said, like we definitely have to um, build more love relationships. Um,
I was gonna say, just going back to the Samson and Delilah story, like you can kind of even see how like with the lust, like it was kind of like a distraction for Samson. Like he let his guard down to the point where he, gave his most vulnerable secret to her without really even knowing her that well. You know what I mean? So I feel like that could be another clue, is that like if we are like feeling distracted, feeling like, again, like we're changing our person, we're like doing things that we wouldn't normally do, changing our morals and our values for somebody, like that might not be love. Because if it was love, somebody, they wouldn't ask you to change all these things. If Delilah really loved Samson, she would accept his answer of, no, I'm not going to tell you, what's the secret to my strength. You know what I mean? Like she'd be okay with that. So I feel like that is another sign as well.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Add would take. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Just to add to what Vanny was saying, was like that story. I think it takes a lot more relevance in like today's world as well. Like it's very relatable in the sense that like Vanny made a good point where like if somebody loved you, they wouldn't ask you things that you shouldn't do. You know what I mean? They shouldn't ask you to change. They shouldn't ask you to be someone you're not. You know what I mean? And that's when like it's hard to tell because and that's where the love comes in or the lust comes in because you think, oh, that person like maybe they disguise it in like, oh, this wants what's best for me, or oh, like they want like me to be the best person I can be, but like in fact it's really like they just don't love you, they lust after you. And if they loved you, they wouldn't ask those things of you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. So, do you guys think that love can be both like emotional and spiritually like blinding?
When you mean spiritually, do you mean like asking God for a partner and he think he sends you this person, but it's really not? Like, do you mean like that?
Yeah, yeah, that's one aspect as well. I was thinking like sometimes if you're not really necessary with like the same person who's like on your spiritual level, they might like influence you to do things that are like out of your character that you won't normally do, and
Sure,
they might like
sure.
influence like how how you normally pray or like your relationship with God. But because of
Right.
like your love for them, you might not realize that like you're swaying further away from God. So like yeah, that's like the point I was trying to like bring out with
Okay.
that, like
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think that that is a very like I feel like it's one of the things that sometimes like the devil may use because like say you pray and you ask God, like I'm single, I want to meet somebody that is for me, that'll help me grow and we could be and build a relationship and be closer to you. You know what I mean? That's what you pray for. All right. And then a new member comes to your church and you guys hit it off, you start talking, maybe you meet at Wednesday prayer meeting, or you meet at AY or something like that. You know what I mean? And you think, oh my gosh, like God's answered my prayers, like this is the person for me, like our relationship is going so smoothly, like we're progressing well and I like it, but that person is changing you. And you can't see it because you feel like you asked for something and it was given to you, but because you're not looking, you assume that this is for me, and but you don't realize that person is changing you in a negative way, and they're changing things about you that would normally like you would normally do. But because you're so blinded by the lust of it, and by maybe the love or the lust of it, you are like, oh, like no, this isn't happening, or no, maybe it's okay, like it's okay this one time, but and stuff like that. But it's really not good for you.
Mhm.
I think I would say that like yeah, like for sure it can blind you emotionally and spiritually, but I think that like a way that it could blind you kind of even deeper is not necessarily like when you meet a person initially. It could be like in a long-term relationship or marriage or a long-term friendship. Like if the like it because for like I feel like it takes a while to build the love, right? At least the level of love that would blind you to somebody, right?
Mhm.
And so it could be your long-term partner, your long-term friend, that they're doing things that are making you, they're affecting their spiritual life. Maybe like, their spiritual life is not as good and they end up bringing you down as well. And it's that love because you've been with them for so long and you have all this history, and you know what I mean, there's so many feelings there that could be what blinds you and brings you down emotionally and spiritually as well. So I think that like it's not just the I meet somebody type relationships that can blind you, but it's also the long-term ones where you have like built a lot together with that person that can blind you as well.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely agree. So we talked a lot about like love, toxic relationships, love, lust, a lot of things. So, do you guys have like any tips or anything for young people our age when they're getting into friendships or relationships? Any tips?
Don't.
No. No tips. I guess like communication can play like an important role. You have to make sure that what the person wants and what you want are like both aligned, or else it might not work long term. Any
Yeah,
other tips?
for sure. Like honestly, with I can only like say, but like these are things I also struggle with as well. Is like you said, communication, like making sure like the avenues for communication are open,
Mm,
making sure like you can tell that person like how you're feeling, and not just like shut down and be like, oh, like I don't want to tell that person, because that's not going to lead to a healthy relationship. And yeah, just be yourself. Honestly, like when you meet somebody new, don't try to be someone you're not. Like it's just gonna come back and just it's gonna be
right.
terrible. Like,
Mhm.
and try like if somebody, especially like we were talking a lot about toxic qualities that we ourselves look and or experience, but also we should also be able to receive that same kind of thing and not like respond in negative ways. Because like we said, like, oh, if a friend does this, then we would react in this way, right? But try to imagine if your friend was telling you that, and don't and be understanding of it. You know what I mean? And be like,
Mhm.
oh, like maybe this is something that I do, and that I should change because I love
Mhm.
that person, or because we're like in a relationship. You know what I mean? So yeah, communication, I would say for sure.
I think, oh, Mana, do you want to go?
You know,
Okay. I think a tip that I would give would to be like make sure that you're ready. And by ready, I mean like that you're like, you know, your whole best self. I'm
Mhm.
not saying I should be perfect, but just make sure that like, you know, you've done everything you can to prepare to be with somebody else and be in a relationship, friendship, whatever that may be. And I think that a lot of that happens from like, you know, being comfortable being single and getting to know yourself better in the process of like singleness. As though like, you know, specifically in like, you know, Christian culture, maybe even I can go as far as say like Adventist culture, like people feel pressured to get into these relationships because there's some imaginary timeline that you know you have to follow, get into a relationship, date, be engaged by this age, get married at this age, have kids by this age, and live your life. But that's not the case. People mature at different times, people are ready at different times, and just wait, be like, just enjoy being single and be happy with yourself and get to know yourself until you feel like you're ready to then take that step. Because like I think, I don't know who said it, but somebody said that like being in a relationship, you can't be two halves and make a whole. You have to be two whole people coming together to make a third whole, or some, you know what I'm trying to say?
That person did not know math because that don't add up. Like
You have to be two 100% coming together to be a 100%, whatever, you get what I'm saying.
be two
But
hundred
like you have
percent.
to be, no, you're not adding it, you're like placing it on top of, okay, anyways, you just have to be, you can't be, you know what I mean, you have to be a full whole person.
Mhm.
um so just don't feel rushed, don't feel pressured, and just make sure that you're ready is my tip.
don't go into a relationship because you're lonely. You know, just because you're seeking comfort of another person, and let's say everyone around you is getting into relationships and might feel like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get into one? So if you use the opportunity, you might jump into something that could be very toxic for you at the end because, you're just trying to seek comfort out of the person and, you just kind of avoid certain personality traits and things that, don't go in line with your values just because you finally have someone you can say you're dating a person. Um, with that too, it also comes being super comfortable with yourself, like Daniel said, and knowing, like, kind of not exactly the person you're looking for, but like certain qualities that like are certain that you want in a person. So, say they have a strong, a good faith and someone who's caring or whatever, something that can be applied to a lot of different people. So it's not like narrowing you to certain people, because when you start being ultra specific, you'll just run into like nobody, and just it just won't be a very quality kind of dating experience, I'd feel. So just kind of being open with it, and obviously speaking to God about it, because sometimes the people that come into your life, they're coming in for a reason. So if you're open to receive that person, they could, turn out to be one that could be a potential life partner. So just being open to receive if anyone wants to come your way romantically, you kind of know. And having fun with it too. Dating shouldn't be a hard thing. It shouldn't be something that's stressing you out. You should be able to be comfortable with that person. You should be able to have hard conversations with them, like as adults would, and enjoy yourself together. Sure, it's not perfect, and you'll have, some hiccups along the way and fighting and all that. It's totally normal, but as long as you can come back to each other and put it behind you and grow from whatever it was, then you can see that's a mark of a healthy relationship and something that, you should maintain to keep for a long while and all that. So, yeah, some tips and all that. So,
Just to add to like what Manny and Benny were saying, like they made some really good points. I feel like a lot of times people are lonely and they get into relationships because they feel like that person will kind of complete them and make them, better. But
mhm,
if you get into a relationship with somebody who's also feeling that same way, like you guys are both, you're not gonna grow. You know what I mean? And it's like when, or if somebody is saying, "Oh, I'm working on myself, so let me get into a relationship that somebody can help me work on myself," but they're working on themselves. Again, it's not gonna work. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like also like you should be okay being alone, like
Mhm.
not being in a relationship. You know what I mean? People like rush into relationships because like, oh, I can't be alone. But like, why do you can't be alone? Figure out like just being okay being alone, not always needing somebody. You know what I mean? And I feel like that is something that's extremely like it's not always common these days.
Quarantine and stuff, it kind of forces you to be by yourself, because
Mhm.
depending where you were, where you were placed, sometimes you had to stay up in like the area you're going to school at, or you're back at your family home. So you're not really seeing anybody. It's not like it's used to. You have to get used to seeing your family a whole lot, and being by yourself. And if you have like a significant other, they're not there, that you can just go and see them all the time. So it kind of forced me to be okay with accepting solitude and being by myself, but not making anything negative of it. So I feel like this is definitely a time that if you wanted to explore that part of yourself, would have been a good time. And it's been lockdown, so like, take the time to just really, be content with who you are and your space, and just doing things that make you happy, because like Daniel said too, you're just supposed to add on to that person. You're not supposed to change and mold them. So you guys will just grow together. You know?
Mhm.
I would also say, just adding on again to what has already been said, also just remembering that like your identity is not in your relationship is a really good point as well, because I know that like for me personally, I do find my identity in other people, which is not healthy at all, and it's something that I definitely need to work on. And so just making sure that you know that like even without the person that you're with, or without a friend, or without your family, that you're still a person, and that person is still, worthy and deserving of, love and getting to know, and just worth spending time with on your own. Like I feel like that is important to just like remember that you're a person, and that you know, even though people might project it on you or you might project it on yourself, like you don't need a relationship to be any more valuable as a human being. Like you're valuable as you are.
Close it then. Thank you so much, Jabulani, Vanya, and Mana for being on my channel today. We did talk about a lot of things about relationships, how they can be toxic, how love is blinding, and we did look at the spiritual and emotional aspect as well. I hope you guys learned something or enjoyed this video. Don't forget to please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll talk next week.
Bye.